Hey guys, Viking Reefing here. I just got back from the Seychelles yesterday, and I was feeling kind of bummed out because, as most of you know, I live in Sweden, and although spring has started to hit, it's still pretty darn cold here. So leaving paradise where it's 30 degrees and sunny each and every day had me kind of bummed out. But there was a silver lining. When we were heading to the airport, I got a notification that I had a package from Deltec waiting on me at my local pickup spot. So that definitely perked me up a bit. And since you probably read the title of this video, you probably know what that package contained. I'm going to preface this video by saying that I have been super happy with my Bubble King Supermarine 250 skimmer. When I got this thing, I basically never thought I would replace it unless it just broke down. However, it does have a couple of drawbacks, which I actually hadn't considered before looking at the Deltec line of skimmers. The three major ones is that emptying the skimmer cup is a major pain in the butt. I always tend to leave it last minute because I'm a busy guy, and you kind of forget, or at least you just procrastinate. Yeah, since there's a lot of skimmate, it kind of smells horrid in my fish room when once I empty the skimmer cup. Also, the skimmer neck gets dirty quite quickly. Generally, also pretty nasty stuff to deal with to scrape that out. And it's a faff because you have to unscrew everything and it drips, and yeah, you know. And the third thing, which has caused me issues on a couple of occasions, is that it has no overflow protection. When I was looking at the Deltec skimmers, I realized all this. I saw that they had something in their line which would basically solve all these issues. For transparency's sake, I also want to mention that this skimmer was provided to me by Deltec for me to try out. However, there are no strings attached, and they are completely fine with me giving my honest opinion. And furthermore, I'm passionate about my tank, so I would never put anything in here which I didn't believe in. So yeah, but let's get into the actual skimmer. So here's the beast. The technical term for this is Deltec Blackline 3.0. This skimmer is rated for tanks between 1,500 liters up to 3,000 liters. It also has this automatic neck cleaner on it, which is a Deltec CSBE 3.0. And this is the part which I'm most excited about this skimmer. It's going to be so freaking nice not having to clean out all that gunk from the skimmer neck. It was actually kind of difficult to get a decent shot of the entire skimmer and me in the frame since it's so freaking big. And I'll get some more close-ups later so you can see the details of the thing. As I said, this is a Deltec Blackline, and it's basically their premium line of skimmers. What you get with this particular skimmer out of the box is, well, basically the skimmer itself, the skimmer body, the skimmer cup. The neck cleaner is an optional addition to it, so you can get this without the neck cleaner as well. You obviously get the pump for it. It's a Deltec E-Flow. You obviously get the pump with it. It's a Deltec E-Flow, and I'm actually kind of surprised on how small this is. But I've heard good things about these guys. I know that Reef Builders, they ran a bunch of their tanks just from one little E-Flow pump. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing performs. And it's only, I believe, 50 watts as well, which is quite impressive if it can properly run this big skimmer. You obviously get the controller for the pump, so you can really dial it in. You get a power supply for the pump. It's a Meanwell power supply, so it's good quality. Obviously power cables. Since I have the neck cleaner, I also have a cable for that, and it has a hose to empty the skimmer cup, either with a flexi hose like this, or you can put this contraption on. So you basically, there's a pipe here, you basically slide this one onto that one, and you have PVC fittings here, so you can screw this one in as well. And this is used if you are using a dosing pump to suck out the skimmate. I won't be using this right now because I do have a continuous doser from Deltec, but it's on loan to a buddy. So I'll start off with this and I'll automate it later on. And let's take a closer look at this thing. So this is the neck cleaner. So we have a motor in here. I believe this looks to be a fairly similar motor to what they use on their caulk stirrers, which I've used in the pots. And these motors, in that case, it's a very high quality motor. I ran mine continuously for years, and it's currently at a buddy's place, and he's also running it. So yeah, that motor really holds up well. Here we have the actual swabby. It's 2 silicone strips which will rotate around and get rid of all that gunk, and it's also kind of tilted so it will push stuff up. An interesting feature with the skimmer cup is that it has an inlet here for water. So what you can do is that you can pump water in to here, and then using, well, this contraption, it will go up to a set point, and then you can just siphon off all the water. So you can get the skimmer cup really freaking clean. Here is how you set your water level. So you basically screw on this to raise the water level. Here is the emergency overflow. So that's a very nice feature. And on my current skimmer, I forgotten to clean it out a couple of times, and it started overflowing, and it just dumped like 2 liters of skimmate back into the tank, which isn't really ideal. So yeah, looking forward to that. This is the E-flow pump. Like I said, it's a very small pump. I'm actually very surprised on the size of this. I mean, it fits beneath the palm of my hand. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this thing performs. And obviously, you have an air inlet here. I always prefer these skimmers with an external pump. Using a pump that's sitting in here, what basically happens is that the bubbles, they are actually basically starting to come in contact with the water right around here or something. So you're actually wasting a ton of space in your skimmer with an internal pump. I know that in some cases you don't have the space for an external pump, but if you can, get a skimmer with an external pump. It's so much better. A bubble diffuser plate here, and I also like the fact that it's easy access. So if you get any crud or anything down here, down at the skimmer bottom, it's easy to access it. On my current skimmer, it has a plate all around, so you can't really reach anything that goes down here. There is one thing that I'll have to figure out. On my current skimmer, I'm using a recirculating CO2 scrubber right here, and I'm not entirely sure on how to replicate this on the Deltec. What I probably have to do is finding a pipe which fits one of these holes, plugging the other ones, and then somehow splicing the airline and run a tube to my CO2 scrubbing media. That should make it a recirculating design. But yeah, that's tomorrow's problem. So the skimmer has now been running for about 3 days. It took it about 24 hours to break in. And after that, it has been producing foam very nicely. And as you can see, this is about the amount of skimmate which it has produced in 3 days. So yeah, it's extremely effective. So this little freaking pump can actually manage to run this big beast of a skimmer. I'm very impressed on how effective that little pump is. And as you can see, it's skimming away nicely. But you haven't seen the best part yet. And this is so freaking satisfying. Have a look at this. And here goes the swabby. And removes all of that freaking crud. That's really nice. So the actual neck cleaner runs every 4 hours if you just plug in the socket, and it runs for a cycle. And you can also put this on a timer. Deltec recommends that you run this at least once every 24 hours so it doesn't get too much buildup. I would guess that it might not be as effective at getting it off, and perhaps if it's a huge amount of buildup, you might have some wear on the actual motor on the swabby. But it works freaking great, and yeah, this is so satisfying. I simply hate cleaning out the neck. So freaking awesome. Other stuff that I've noticed is that this skimmer is actually whisper quiet. It's a lot more quiet than my old skimmer from Royal Exclusive, which is very impressive. One bad thing about that is that I can now hear, the only noise I can basically hear from my sump is, the sound coming from my calcium reactor. But now I can actually hear that my Red Dragon return pump is kind of noisy, so that has started to bug me a bit. Oh, this contraption is basically, I use this old tune skimmer as an ozone generator. I'll do a separate video about that. I used to run ozone on my skimmer, but I tried to separate those things out. So are there any negatives that I found? Well, as I said, it looks to be kind of hard to make a fully recirculating design on this skimmer. I'm going to see what happens if I tee this one off and plug these holes in. What I'm a bit worried about is that the overflow protection then might actually pull water up towards the actual CO2 scrubbing media. So that is a worry of mine. One thing that might not be a consideration for most people, as they haven't had my old setup, but on my old skimmer, I used to have these carbon filters on the holes. So now when I don't have that, I get a very faint smell coming off the skimmer, or the skimmate, I guess, because it's basically all just decomposed food and fish poop. But apart from that, I'm exceptionally happy and impressed with the skimmer. And one thing that I forgot to mention is that the airline that goes into the skimmer, that thing is actually super easy to disconnect. It just pops off. So if you want to clean the pump or something, it's no major hassle. But overall, I am very happy with this skimmer so far. I am very impressed with its performance. I actually set it to skim quite wet, and I just tested my nitrates and phosphates, and my phosphates actually had dropped down significantly. They were like 0.004, so I'm going to be reducing the skimming on this one. I may have been pushing it a little bit too hard in the beginning, still dialing it in. But so far, I am very impressed, and I am so freaking over the moon with this neck cleaner thing. It's freaking awesome. Well, this is still early days. I haven't even had it set up for a week yet, and I will definitely be doing a follow-up on this once I've ran it for a bit longer. But my initial impressions are very positive. Alright guys, I think that's it for today. I hope you guys found this walkthrough enjoyable. And if you have any questions about the skimmer or anything like that, post them down below in the comments and I'll get to you. Have a good one. Bye.